right. So let's start and welcome everyone to the PTS or Partner Technical Strategist How-To session, which will be recorded. For those who are watching the recording, please note this is a live presentation. There's no post-production, and if everything goes according to plan, there are no cuts or any tampering with the content. And the reason why I do this presentation is actually, if we assess the situation, you will probably agree with me that Teams and online conferences and all this kind of stuff is here to stay. It will not go away. Even if by some miracle everything will be back like it was a year before or something, we have seen the value of online presentations. So what I think is we have a responsibility as Microsoft, but in general also as a presenter, to take care of the time and make a useful investment when inviting someone. It might be a partner, a customer, or a colleague, and really do something professional, something with passion. And here I say, okay, I'm not happy. In a present session, now the crowd would go like, oh, and something like, okay, give me some feedback. And this is exactly what I mean, what we are missing. Because, and I'll give you an example. In a present situation, if you have like the stage and there's the audience, where would you be as a presenter? Would you be rather at the stage, center stage, and explain what's going on? Or would you sit, and this is what we have right now with most online tools, we are actually in the back row somewhere behind, and indicated by some initials and the blue pulsing light that you are actually the speaker right now. So that's why I decided to put myself into the picture and give you an example. It's an example out of actually marketplace presentation. Doesn't matter, it's just an example here, but these are my slides. These are, I choose here examples, top transact partners in marketplace. So I will be, I want to be close to them. I want to interact with those. I probably pick one. This is an Austrian ISV, great, which do a database especially useful for IoT cases. So I want to be as close as possible to my content, not hidden somewhere where I would do that, hide myself if I'm not convinced, if I would not be proud of my partner, but I am. So therefore I'm here. I want to also point at things. Pointing is incredible, important for me. So in this case, I would point, okay, we see a marketplace listing, and the interesting point is actually under the logo, because there you see, okay, this get it now button, and this is the get it now button, something like that. So I want to see in a presentation all this emotion, the body language, gestures. I want to see what is the presenter doing actually with the hands. Also the facial expression, like this delight if something is working on, but also despair if something or a situation needs to change. And I think even if you're like visually impaired, or you have bandwidth issues and you can't see the video stream at all, you would hear in my voice what I'm actually doing with my body. I'm quite convinced that all this leads, and this is a little bit selfish, I'm doing presentations not just for fun or because I enjoy it. Yes, that's also true, but also because I want to have impact. That's the point. This is, by the way, another thing where I can actually point at things and probably highlight that I want to have impact, all this kind of stuff. And this is not just me, also Microsoft seems to agree, because on Ignite 2020, there was an announcement by the Teams team to have that kind of functionality to impose or transpose your video stream into something like PowerPoint. That will come later this year to Teams. Now you could say, let's wait, but you don't need to. You can have it today, and I will show you exactly how. The investment, I think, will pay off, because everything you learn today from me, everything I share, will also be true whenever Teams has this functionality there. There's only one bit that we don't need then in the future, maybe, depends on the flexibility you want to have. So this is definitely something that will pay off, and you get a head start by doing some of the trainings right now. I also want to point out or give a special thumbs up and thanks to two colleagues, Carl Henrik from Sweden, which actually inspired me to look into that and gave me the whole idea about that, and Andy Ascher from Austria, who helped me on some technical stuff. So thanks for you. Sharing is caring. Keep on the good work. So now to the walkthrough. What I have here is a setup. I think a lot of the components you already have. I say here my setup because the things that I'm using are incredible powerful, and there is a plethora of other options and functionalities. I'm using only a tiny bit of the whole capabilities of those systems. So what you need to get something like this here is a laptop or a PC with a screen. Okay, you should have that. And a webcam plus a secondary screen. So about the webcam, I do recommend an external one because most of the internal webcams are, I need a nicer word than crap, are not doing the job. Yeah. So therefore, I recommend getting an external one and a second screen. By the way, I don't have a second screen. I'm using a TV set for that. It does the job. On the software side, we have PowerPoint and Teams, also not a big surprise. And in the middle, I have a software called OBS. That's the Open Broadcaster software, a wonderful piece of open source software that is heavily used, especially by streamers. So this is a very common software actually, but I'm using it here simply for getting the sources or the source feeds from the webcam and from PowerPoint into OBS. OBS will do the magic, mix that together, do the green screen stuff, and then the output will be sent to screen number 2. And then in Teams, I say, okay, screen number 2, share. Simple as that. Yes, and then there is a green screen and some lighting setup, probably with something better than a flashlight, but I was unable to find a better icon in PowerPoint, so therefore that's the setup. Pretty simple. Let's have a look how this is going. So you go to obsproject.com, and by the way, I'm doing the complete setup right now. You will see there are only a couple of steps. So you do the full install, you run OBS. You don't need to actually configure any of the streaming services because we are not using those. We're just configuring the two sources, and you already know the two sources. It's PowerPoint and the webcam. So let's start with the window capture. You probably want to give that a wonderful and very creative name like PowerPoint. And while you add it, before you click on OK, you probably might start a PowerPoint. I use here a placeholder PowerPoint just to see a preview in OBS. So let's switch back to OBS and click on OK. There are some settings here. So the first one is which window to capture. This is the slideshow. The file name, by the way, is not important. This can change later on because we have here the window match priority. It will find the only PowerPoint slideshow that is running. And here I change in capture method to Windows Graphics Capture. And that's it. You see now me trying to resize and position the window. You're probably faster than me, but after the third attempt, I was able to do that. And because the PowerPoint, the file might change, but the position does not, you can actually click this little lock symbol, so it will be pinned down. So we're almost halfway through. So let's add here a video capture device. This video capture device, that is your external camera. Click on OK. Okay, and you already see the preview of my green screen. In my case, I need to change the resolution of the camera. I'm not sure if this is for everyone the case, but I change it here to a custom and go for full HD resolution. And that's it for that setup. Okay, now resize also this window a little bit, not to the final position, just that I see that it's already working. And now we need to add at least one so-called filter. So I do a right click on the camera, add filter, and in filters, we want to have an effect filter called chroma key. That will do the job by removing the background. And done. You can see actually with my standard settings, I'm already done. You can play around, of course, with the option, depending also on your light situation. You can also see where I probably should have done a better job in positioning the camera. So I have here some gaps outside the green screen. I could reposition the camera, but why change something in the physical world when we have software for that? So I'm using here a second effect called crop and just cut away a few pixels on the left side, probably some on the right side. And after the third attempt, I probably have also here the required output. So again, I position that, and actually that's it. And this was the complete setup, end to end. And this is this of course tested. So that's a test. But actually, that's it. You only need to do this one time. The next time, if you don't change the position of the camera or something like that, that's it. Yeah, so in a nutshell, the setup steps was download, run a PowerPoint, configure the two sources. The one is the PowerPoint, the other one is the webcam itself. Then you apply 1 or 2 filters, so the crop might not be needed in your case, and that's it. From now on, you can actually start using it. There's also a small how-to on that one. So I've extended the screen to the second monitor, but everything is actually running on screen 1 on the laptop. So I start the PowerPoint here. I can do so actually before joining the team. And the only special step is here that I start OBS and say, okay, I want to have a full screen projection on the external screen, on screen 2. Then I join, or was already joined, but probably I do this. This is a sad meeting. I'm all alone here. And then I click on Share Screen 2. And that's exactly what I did in this meeting. That's the full setup. The only recommendation here is go back to your PowerPoint. So in case you are using a clicker, that the clicker works. So at a glance, to start the magic, run PowerPoint, run OBS, output to the full screen projection, and in Teams, share screen 2, and of course, switch to PowerPoint. That's it. That was easy, right? I mean, everyone can do that. So therefore, go for it. But there are, of course, some, I would say, advantages, disadvantages, things that you might want to consider. So let me give you some of my learnings. Number one is, of course, I need to customize my PowerPoints. I lose a lot of real estate. So therefore, actually, I mean, it's a little bit more than 50%, but that I still have available depending on where I also physically move. And so I can also move a little bit closer, a little bit back. But in the end, I lose a lot of that. I do not recommend putting text or elements behind you. That I'm distracted by that because then I'm not included in the setup. But standing in front of it, let's see how this would look like. So just place some random text here behind. Can you see? So I mean, in this case, you would be able to guess what the missing text might look like based on the pattern here. But normally, so this is a no-go. So what I would recommend, if you have slides that you cannot reduce in terms like, and this is an example. So there's stuff going on. It doesn't matter. I just took one of the slides where I was most impressed about the amount of things you can put here. So there are things happening here and things happening here and probably here, and you already, yeah, then just go outside the picture for a moment. You don't need to be visible all the time. You've seen me also stepping outside when I played the screen capture. Do whatever this slide is still showing, and okay, that's it. So that shouldn't be much of a problem. On the other hand, what I'm of course missing, I'm looking all the time into a camera. Both of my screens are blocked, more or less. The one with the PowerPoint in full screen mode, the other one with the full screen projection. So I don't see the PowerPoint presenter view. So I might have no clue what the next slide is. You could argue an idea would be to click through the slides before you start them so that you know, but we all know how it is. So there might be some content where also the presenter is surprised that it's on the slide. But I don't think that's a problem, because what would you do in an offline scenario, in an presentation? You would turn around, look at the slide, turn back to the audience and continue talking. And I can do the same technique here. With 100% certainty, I can tell you there's the word cellador, considered as one of the most beautiful words in the English language. Don't know why, but there's a Wikipedia link to look it up. So therefore, all these kind of techniques would still work. We should not forget what we have learned actually about presentations in the past. So that's that. Then, as a summary about this customized PowerPoints, I would say, yeah, okay, it's time consuming. I need to edit my slides. But this also helps me to really focus on what's important for that target audience. Because just copying existing slide decks, yeah, possible, but not the best idea. Here, I'm almost forced to do a targeted audience or targeted presentation to my audience. So awesome. Obvious hint, this setup and all the things that needs to be. I recommend getting a colleague, also as some kind of sparring partner, see how the things are going. And of course, the other one is it needs training. It's so unnatural for my feeling. I'm looking right now, literally, at a piece of plastic or glass, 1 centimeter lens. Yeah? But if I look anywhere else, it would be strange. So, but it's not a natural behavior. So getting this kind of interaction or participation that someone feels addressed, you need to look them into the lens nowadays. So therefore, this is what I'm doing here. Yeah, and then there's something. Let's assume you're familiarized yourself with all the things, so you really, yeah, you know how to do it. Then you do the next step, and it's very easy to overdo the things because it's so easy to do. I'll give you an example. Like I could set up here like an interview situation with myself. So this is the morning me, and I muted that one, but I was using that for a scenario. But it's so borderline. Is it still professional, right? Besides the haircut, the needed one. So yeah, you can do, but probably you should not do, thin line. Yeah, so I know normally when I overstep the line that, okay, that was too much, like talking to, hey, Clippy, how are you? Oh, but I was waiting now for 13 years, I think. Office 2007 was the first one that introduced the functionality where I had never used KISS for. Now I have. So 13 years of wait comes to an end. I can now use the fracture transition because Clippy, I do remember. Awesome. That is what I meant with overdoing things. And now I'm here in the dark, which is the professional transition to the next topic, which is lighting. Because a lot of this stuff here is really dependent on the correct lighting. Also, the current functionality of remove background works better in Teams when you have a proper lighting in your room. I'll give you an example of how this could look like. So if I just add here myself with the, oh, thank you, with the same setup actually with the same lights, and I deactivate the lights, you see there's a lot of grain, yeah, and the software is really having a hard time, and the skin color turns into something ugly and so on. So that is definitely not something you should aim for. So lights, that should be one of the top priorities on your shopping list. Talking about shopping lists, I can't give you like this is the definite ultimate list what you need to buy, because it really depends how much you want to invest and spend. I think it's a good time to invest because of the reasons I talked about, but yeah, so example, a good camera. You should get a good camera. What is a good camera? So a lot of people are opting for the Logitech Brio, a 4K cam. You will never use 4K, but the sensor is okay. This camera will set you back. List price is about 200 euro, but it's in high demand. So you pay up to 300 for this webcam. I'm using a pretty old one, actually an Intel Dev Kit. Yeah, it does the job. I think it's okay. Same thing goes for the other requirements like the green screen. So I have a fixed setup. You saw it in my setup video, but there is a portable version, for example, for about 60 euro that you can also, yeah, store when you don't need it and you don't need to revamp your whole room. Same goes for lightings. The picture here was provided by Carl Hendrik. He says, okay, this one is good enough, but if you want, of course, you can buy this color changeable flat LED panel things. Awesome, and they do an amazing job, and you can even have different setups like day or afternoon and things like that. It all comes to your personal preferences. But lights is definitely something that you need, so there's no way around that. Where you probably can get around is about the green screen setup, so you could opt for just a boxed version. You follow the same setup that I did, with the only exception you don't add the chroma key filter. Then you have this picture-in-picture effect, still better than having your picture somewhere next to the taskbar. The other thing is a recommendation. Probably, I have not bought the software yet. I was using the trial to test a few things. So it's pretty amazing. I just opted for the real green screen option. This is called XSplit VCam, and this virtual cam does an amazing job with background removal. Also works with OBS, so I can do the same setup and a lot of those things. And if you have the correct lighting, this software might get you around the investment of a green screen. So that's that. Going forward, I'm talking about investments. I did the first steps. I'm pretty happy where this is going. I'm not super happy. There are a lot of things that I'm not that I want to change. So I fear thinking about should I include that, but actually my room looks right now something in between a garbage dump and an abandoned, still electrified Amazon warehouse. Lots of boxes, lots of these huge lamps, and so on. So I probably step up and say, okay, I really invest. And my thoughts are around right now, okay, supporting more scenarios, because right now this presentation setting that I have here. I probably need a hands-on scenario or a situation setup scenery, something where I'm sitting, probably something, and this leads me to probably a height adjustable standing desk with a fixed lighting setup with also on rolls. So I can probably say, okay, this is the green screen setup, and then with one swift move, I can switch to a non-green screen, probably whiteboard setup to have this kind of interactivity. And so this is what I'm thinking about, of course, getting rid of this lamps, especially because they're full of mercury, and if they crash, I would probably have some kind of hazard here. And maybe, but very low on the priority list, the teleprompter. If you have ever taken a video, you want to create a video, and you have like 30 takes, because especially for a non-native speaker, always struggling with finding the right words and everything, and then yeah, it might be an idea, but on the other hand, I'm probably too lazy to write everything up front. So therefore, in the sake of authenticity, teleprompter is on the low list. Definitely where I need and ask also for input is, I mean, this is now one situation and it works for me. I've tried it now several times in live presentation towards partners and customers. I'm almost happy with that one, but I want to go the next step because it's still one directional. I still hear, for example, that someone did not mute the microphone, and I always hear the typing. That's okay. But I'm looking for something where actually the slides are dynamic. There are several plugins and solutions already existing. I haven't had the time to look into that. So I'm really curious how the next step in real interactivity in those things like we had in presentations, how I could transform that into this digital world. But for you, for now, the call to action is pretty obvious and pretty clear. Hey, take a look at OBS. You can start with your built-in camera. Try a few things, how this is working according to the manual that I just gave you. And if there's any question, you find me in the global address list or on LinkedIn. So with that, I wish you all the best, and I'm happy to see better online presentations in the future. Thank you.